Welcome to the market recap presented by Tackle Trading. Get in the game.
Good afternoon, Tackle Traders, and hello, YouTube. This is Frank coming to you with the market recap for Thursday, August 16th. Buyers are back, no doubt about that. Today, a little bit of back and forth these last few days as the Bears and Bulls fight it out. But boy, today there was a clear winner on the bullish side of things. So excited to see how the day progressed. Before I do that, quickly talk about our earnings going into tomorrow. Today, after the market close, we have Applied Materials, Nordstrom's, and NVIDIA coming out. And then tomorrow, before the market open, we will have John Deere. So those are our big name companies both coming out with earnings tomorrow. So keep an eye on those, see if anything interesting develops. Speaking of something interesting, Walmart, of course, reported here this morning a stellar report, absolutely crushed it up almost 10%. Crazy things happen in the market. Walmart's done a great job, though, kind of adapting their business model over the years. I was laughing because I was looking at Walmart, thinking about how big of a gap that was and kind of jealous. I wish I would have been there, but I don't hold through earnings unless it's an earnings trade specifically. But I started thinking about JCPenney's and just thought about, the tale of two stocks, two companies, one that kind of got with the times in Walmart and one in JCPenney that they reported their earnings here today as well. Certainly not the name that Walmart is, but it completely went the opposite direction. So it's important to adapt, whatever your business might be, right? Whether it's retail or trading or anything else. Just thought that was kind of an interesting thing to take a peek at. Getting straight down to business, though, strong day in the market, particularly in the Dow Jones, definitely led the charge here today. We definitely saw quite a bit of buying. NASDAQ continues to kind of just be, until we come out of this, I think we just have to kind of call it, this is where we are. We're basically fighting with that resistance level, pulling back, taking another run at it, it looks like. And ultimately, I'd love to see it break. But the longer it takes, the more I'm just going to say, I'm just going to kind of be leaving, that side of things alone until I break. So that's, I would like to see it try again sooner rather than later if I could get my way, at least. S&P, very similar, but taking another crack at that resistance level. And so certainly we're closer today than we've been since, early last week. So maybe we can get a shot. I don't expect a breakout to happen tomorrow, although you never know. But certainly the pattern still remains intact. Resistance still stays the same. Support continues to hold. So nothing really changed other than a lot of buying today, kind of carrying on that momentum. We talked about that momentum, as the intraday momentum yesterday. We had the big gap, but really kind of rallied up throughout the second part of the day. And that certainly carried over in the markets here today. The Dow is definitely the big winner today. We're about to push and test its most current level of resistance. Certainly a ton of buying, up almost 400 points. That's not quite as much as it sounds to maybe some veteran traders, but it's still, 1.5%. So certainly not a small move. We definitely are going to be challenging that resistance level. So keep an eye on that. And I kind of like that it's kind of starting to line up from a resistance point of view with the S&P and with the NASDAQ. As a bull, I'd love to see all these things break out at relatively the same time. We'll see if I get that, but I would like to see that. Russell continues to trade within the same trading range, even more so than the NASDAQ. I think until we're out, we just have to assume that we're in. We'll move up, we'll move down, but really until we break out one way or the other, I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of clarity. Certainly not a bad pattern for neutral type of traders, I would imagine. But that's where we find ourselves in our overall indexes. Interestingly enough, XLB, of course, our friend who for so long was in that triangle, they kind of ran up pretty strong early on the day, ran up, kind of used that old trend line as some resistance, sold off of on the intraday. That's certainly something that we probably should watch for. That trend line oftentimes does act as new resistance or support if if we break to the other side. So continue to monitor how we're going, how we're behaving there. Honestly, I couldn't fault somebody if they wanted to go bearish on this signal assuming we had some confirmation of tomorrow, I have to say, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I couldn't fault somebody coming out of that triangle after all this time. Energy kind of rallied, hanging out at its 200-day moving average. Not really much conviction behind it here today, but we are kind of holding our own, at least for the day after yesterday's brutal sell-off in the energy sector. That 200, kind of keep an eye on that, but really I'd like to kind of see, this thing is going to have to do something to get me to trust it. From a bullish point of view, at least, not really loving that chart personally right now. A strong showing in the financials today. Looks like they are going to give that old resistance level another shot here in the not too distant future. At least they're definitely going to try their best to do so. Of course, we know how important it's been, so do keep an eye on that. But very strong day in the financial sector here today. Industrials continues to just elude me, and I'm glad I've not really had a strong opinion of it lately. After yesterday, we kind of closed or kind of came down, broke support. Today, we gap up and broke resistance, kind of gapped above that previous little resistance level on the open and kind of ran. So I was looking to the weekly chart for some clarity, and I'll do this. I'm not afraid to admit when a chart's just, I'm not feeling it. I don't have a handle on it. I'd rather people laugh at me for that than to lose money on something I don't want to be losing money on. But in looking at the weekly chart, kind of helped me with a little bit more clarity. Right now, for me, I think we're either sideways or looking for a break, and that's where I am with it currently. That certainly can help give me clarity when I kind of have a, what the heck are you doing, stock or ETF or market, that one of those type of moments. So that resistance, nonetheless, wherever you find yourself, obviously is still a big deal. We've struggled with it many times, so certainly keep an eye on that as we move into next week. Here, tech didn't really take off today, but certainly didn't, really have a rough day or a bad day or anything like that. Just wasn't quite as exciting as, some other areas like industrials, healthcare, and so forth. So, but we still continue to have our overall trend intact, still continue to kind of be floating towards the top end of that resistance. So nothing has changed from a technical point of view over there. Our old friends in the staples really, coming through for anybody who did decide to move into that sector on this most recent pullback. They also gapped kind of right to and through resistance on today's open, showing a stellar day. Certainly, I know when we were talking about this earlier in the week, I doubt any of us probably thought we were going to make that big of a move that fast. But here we are, right? So we'll take it if we did anything with that. This line that you see here, I'll go into a weekly chart. That's kind of where I think our next real level of resistance is here on the staples at around $56. So we really don't have a ton of overhead within this sector right now. It's been on fire. It certainly continues to play very nicely, very orderly. So until I see otherwise, I don't see any reason to think we won't challenge that next level. At this pace, maybe it'll be tomorrow. I wouldn't hold my breath, but wouldn't shock me, I guess. Utilities actually were able to finally, we've seen them break out on the intraday and fail that over and over the last few weeks. Yesterday, of course, they broke out and closed, and then they were able to carry that momentum into today. Again, I'm just going to, for a clarity point of view, we basically ran back up. We looked at this yesterday. We even kind of saw them play off of it yesterday. Ran up to that next level of resistance. That's our next challenge from a bullish point of view. If we can get through that, don't really have another challenge till we get up in here. But certainly something to keep an eye on. That may or may not be enough reason if I'm not here, but if I were, that may not be enough reason to make me want to get out of the trade, but it would definitely make me think about it, or think about, scaling out, or think about, moving a stop or something like that. But can't argue the strength. Certainly a ton of buying into that today. Boy, when it broke, right? It struggled, and then it broke, and then it was off to the races. So pretty strong sector right now. Our healthcare continues also to be very, very strong day within this sector. We're getting closer and closer to that, that high point that we were looking at way back here when we first started breaking out. Still have a little room between here and there. Obviously, we're still, if not one of the very strongest sectors in the market right now. So everything's still looking good technically from that point of view over there in the healthcare. Continuing to potentially build another shot at this resistance level within our discretionaries. Haven't broke it yet. Certainly looks like might give it another go though. Of course, we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, we bounced off the 50-day moving average yesterday. Not a ton of follow through off of that here today as money was going into other sectors, but really didn't really do anything. Doesn't really look any different really technically today than it did last week at this time. Really, it's just down a little bit or up a little bit depending on the day. But I think we're really watching for that resistance before we can really have too strong of an opinion one way or the other. And to finish us off in our sectors, our real estate, another great day of follow through on real estate. We're able to kind of push up to that previous swing high, much like our staples and our tech and certain other areas. We certainly are in a very strong upward trend. No real reason to think we're going to stop. Again, we're kind of at resistance. So again, whenever we're in something like this, this type of a pattern, ideally we thought about this before today. Right? When we're getting into this hypothetically on the pullback, I know for myself and a lot of traders, the first target price will be that previous swing high. I can't fault anybody for wanting to have that be their target price. The only thing we know with 100% certainty is last time we were here, we dropped. Right now, with the strength of the trend, that's not necessarily my expectation, but I am going to have that as my first target if I'm setting up a trade on a pattern like this, just so I can be mentally prepared. Well, hey, I'm going to hold on to this thing, but hey, if it does struggle here, if it does go sideways, heck, even if it pulls back, I don't want to be caught off guard. I shouldn't be, right? My expectations are the trend will continue, but the reality is that it might not. Of course, no one knows the future. Just being mentally prepared helps me. I'm not the type of person who likes to sit through a pullback. And so, I always have to trick myself, if you will. But still very strong in the real estate sector. Got a little ways to go before working to its next major level of resistance. So things are looking pretty good over there. So really, as we get ready to wrap this week up in the market, very solid week. We had yesterday kind of throw a little bit of a curveball at us, but it kind of avoided some of the areas that have been strong. The healthcare held its own yesterday, real estate and staples actually thrived yesterday. So certainly an interesting week in the market, that's for sure. Can't say that I didn't like it. Crude still kind of continues it's not in a very great technical spot. I think most crude traders you'll talk to right now will say they don't really see a trade right now on crude. I don't see one right now. We do have some support around that 64 and some resistance around that 66. So those are some price areas I know that we can keep an eye on. But really, the chart's kind of choppy and kind of messy right now. And when we have other areas that are not choppy and messy, why don't we look at them? Is my thought, at least. Of course, you can look at whatever you would like. So certainly not anything too substantial. We could kind of catch our footing after yesterday's bloodbath, but really nothing interesting happened from a technical point of view, at least if you're not looking at the intraday. Natural gas did sell off a little bit more today, kind of back to that little swing it put in early in the week. We talked about before, we have some resistance in that $3 range. And so the fact that we're kind of hanging around here doesn't really surprise me. I was kind of thinking a pullback, last week at this time, but it's just been so darn strong. Hasn't really seemed to want to pull back. But we have seen some stellar step in these last couple of days. We do have our rig count tomorrow. So if you are trading natural gas, obviously keep an eye on that. That report can move the natural gas market, but really haven't changed a lot technically. Watch that support level, but certainly really looks overall pretty much the same. It's just, again, where are we? Are we in the upward swing or the downward swing? Until we start breaking support, we really haven't changed much, right? So that's where we find ourselves in natural gas. With our gold and our silver, we certainly had a little bit. We sold off early, rallied, kind of closed down at the bottom. So really nothing to see here. If you're bearish, well, you probably are bearish. How are you bullish? But from a technical point of view, we did see some movement, on the intraday. I'll come to the hourly chart here so we can see how that played out. But we kind of started to run out of gas real quickly. and have already started to drift back down. So it remains very, very weak, very, very bearish overall. Do keep in mind that kind of our real resistance levels, I think the first level that you're looking at is that little floor that we broke yesterday, and then that larger floor that we built over the last few days. So if I'm looking at this from a potential retracement perspective, those are areas where, my eyeballs will naturally gravitate if we start to approach that. So if you get a trade, or if I'll get a trade at that point, if we ever get there. But again, I like to think ahead. This might be a place where I'd be interested. Can't promise I'd be interested, but I know I might be interested at that location. And looking at the dollar, really overall remains very strong. Not a lot of movement, a little bit of downward, but nothing major whatsoever within the dollar. So we do remain at the same general location there as well. We'll take a quick peek at silver. A little more violent on its upward swing here today than gold, but really the same analysis overall that we applied to gold, I think we can apply to the silver market if that's what we're looking for. And again, always remember, and this is one thing that you probably see these lines on this chart. This isn't the only charting software I use, but this one, I always have lines on them, sometimes from a long time ago, because these are areas I'd be interested in. If this breaks this floor, that's another selling opportunity. Whether or not you or I will take that opportunity, that's our business to decide for ourselves. And who knows, right? I might be thinking about it, but then it might, fly right through it so fast. By the time I get around, my risk to reward's gone. I don't know how it'll play out, but we can do so much preparation. Yes, if this breaks, that could be a selling opportunity. Maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't, but that's not going to change, right? So we can do a lot of our work ahead of time on a lot of these things, and well, it pays off, right? If we do this. So if you're not, maybe start trying that out. See if that can help you out a little bit in your own trading. Ladies and gentlemen, that is where we find ourselves here today in the market as we get ready to move into Friday. So pretty exciting day in the market. Certainly wouldn't be surprised if maybe some profit takers come in tomorrow. Don't really have any maybe great signals, although we are getting pretty close to resistance in our major indexes. So that's always a good, think about it from your point of view. I'm on a Friday. I'm thinking about, should I stay or should I go? I've got resistance. I've got some profits. That might make me want to take them, right? So I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know the future. But, if we do kind of see a little bit of slowing on a Friday at resistance, wouldn't be all that shocking. Now, hopefully we're able to see some breaks next week. I know I would like to see that, of course. But anyway, guys, as always, I certainly appreciate everybody's time. If you haven't already, go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the Tackle Trading YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted anytime we upload a new video. We're always doing more over there, and so I would love to share them with you. If you don't mind, it's always appreciated and helpful if you give the market recap a thumbs up. If you enjoyed it, just let us know we're on the right track here. With that, ladies and gentlemen, happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.